Hey Jerry, thank you for coming in. You got a really remarkable career over a long period of time. Whether it's with IBM, 19 books, publishing research, really enabling people around the world through your activities and providing guidance to senior executives. I mean, you really have done pretty much anything a person could do. Um, of some notable contribution and for a long time, as I mentioned. So, thank you for coming in and sharing your insights with my audience.
Well, Stephen, it's my pleasure to join you today and join your audience. And we've been discussing opportunities for a long time, and delighted to share whatever insights and value you believe your audience would be of interest to.
So, Jerry, the first question is, you do have this remarkable career, and it's over decades, and you've really done everything. That
I'm not sure about everything, but yeah. But I've earned my gray hairs. How's that?
so I'm always curious, what are those three inflection points in your life that made this wonderful career you have and continue to have? And it could have been when you were 3 years old or 5 or 10. It could be inside, outside the family. It could be something happened in school, in college. It could be early career moves. So what are the top three game changers that really shaped you to who you are today?
Great question. Uh, I would say the first and largest game changer was when I was finishing my last year at NYU as an undergraduate. And I was in the first graduating class of computer science, which was years ago. Um, but basically, my dream was after finishing NYU to go to MIT, Sloan School. And candidly, I was very excited about going. I even received a fellowship. And after receiving the fellowship, I got a letter saying that I wasn't admitted, which was perplexing. And that's a whole nother story. But basically, during my senior year, I figured I might as well go for some interviews with some companies to see what I kind of jobs I can get. And one of them was IBM. And I was dating this young girl for about a year. And when I found out I wasn't going to go to MIT, I was doing some research for the dean of the business school of NYU, and she was helping. So I went in, and she was sitting with the dean, and I basically told the dean, "You're going to be my witness. So we're now officially engaged." And I called up IBM, took the job, and got married. The same day I started IBM, and had a wonderful career at IBM for 22 years, and still doing things with IBM, and I'm still married to the same lady. And that was probably the biggest game changer, because if I went directly to graduate school, I'm not sure. Well, I wouldn't have worked, and I'm not sure I would have gotten married. So that was a major transition point in my life. And I mean, probably the only other big game changer was starting at NYU and being in the first graduating class of information management, computer science, which was very much ahead of its time back then. They combined technical programs with the School of Management to give a balance of both technology and business and management, which I think was well ahead of its time. But basically, picking computer science as my major back then was largely driven because I liked Mr. Spock from Star Trek. And it sounded like a fun thing. I never, back then, nobody ever saw computers or knew much about it, but it just sounded interesting from watching Mr. Spock. And those two things were probably the biggest game changers. And coming into more recent times, I suspect when IBM was having struggles back in the early 90s, and we were given a great opportunity to take an early retirement. I basically did, and I was teaching as an adjunct at Columbia and at Stevens Institute. And basically, I decided to go into academia, which was probably the next major change in my career. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I love the teaching, I love the writing, and the research. And at Stevens, I was fortunate enough to be able to start their graduate information systems program. So it was an entrepreneurial initiative also for me, and very exciting time. And after 22 years at IBM and 20 years at Stevens Institute, and now 12 years with my own company that's doing what we call digital management education, it puts me at about 115 years old, but I'm in very good shape for my age. And candidly, sometimes I feel like I'm 115 years old, but I love the action. That's the motivator and driver of what I'm doing. All the things that we were dreaming about, talking about 20, 30, even more years ago about IT really impacting every company, every industry is a reality today. And it's very, very exciting. The downside is we're making the same dumb mistakes that we made 30, 40, 50 years ago, and which is why we try to have education programs for IT and non-IT professionals to help them understand, what they ought to be doing to ensure they don't make these silly mistakes that were made in the past. And our programs are very successful for both IT and non-IT managers at every level, and it's an exciting time. And the other sneaky point, and I'll shut up, is my wife of a lot of years said she'd divorce me if I'd retire, and it has nothing to do with the money. I drive her crazy. So I'm having a ball. I love the action, and it's a great time to be in information systems, information technology, digital management, whatever buzzword you'd like to call it.
So there's a lot to mine here. So I'm going to go back in time again. You're let's say you're 10 years old or 12 years old. It sounds like then you were kind of a tech geek in the sense that it sounded like you like math or sciences, and you definitely like Star Trek, right? So can you describe your interest? Were you?
I was always good at math, candidly. So you hit it right on the nose. I always enjoyed math, even as a young kid, and through high school, through college, and then part of my undergraduate degree, I could have gotten a bachelor's in mathematics, but I was lucky and was guided to take the bachelor's in information management with a management focus, because I think from a career point of view, as you move up in the ranks in your career, it's one thing to have good technical skills and love of technology, but without having the appropriate business management, leadership, industry, interpersonal skills, you're just not going to move ahead as far in your respective career. Not that a technical career is bad, you can do quite well, but to really move up into more senior level ranks and to make an impact on the industry, you need to be able to work with the non-IT business people.
Yeah, but you indicated when you went to NYU, you studied computing, and so were you tinkering with computing when you were in high school or before?
There was nothing to tinker with back then.
That's curious.
There were even the earliest PCs or things like that. I'm an old guy. I'm sorry. It was IBM 360 or bust. So nobody was even talking about getting your hands dirty with any kind of computing experience. And candidly, when I started at the university, they literally started us with first generation computing, second generation computing, third generation computing. So we started with wiring boards just to understand, what the change has been in moving forward. When I first saw assembler language, if anybody knows assembly language, I thought I can conquer the world.
That's true.
God, what more do you need than than assembly language and 4K of memory? I mean, God, it's much better than anything wiring boards or anything like that. And then when we learned COBOL or Fortran and PL1, I said, that's English. What this is, it's wonderful. And obviously, as time has progressed, things have changed a wee bit, and I really think for the better and much more exciting.
So because you got an experience that many people have never seen before. So again, I'm going to go back. You have this interest, Star Trek, you're interested in things that are kind of science, math related. In fact, you're even thinking of getting a math degree. And then you end up in computing, but that computing at that time, you was it information science or what is that computing science?
Good question. Again, NYU, I really think was ahead of its time back then because we took programs from the computing science mathematics department as well as the School of Management. Back then it was called the School of Commerce. So we really had a really well-designed balance of both the real techie dicky hands-on type of things and more of the management. And we learned some of the computer science considerations, and then we learned some of the information management considerations, as well as the general business and mathematics, and as I call it, statistics, not statistics, because you got to be statistical to like statistics, I think. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So I really, was very, looking back, very impressed with the program that we were offered, even way back then, in giving the different perspectives of computing.
Yeah, now I can understand this sort of journey, including what you're doing now, but even through the different stages, because early on, it wasn't just pure computing science, which is very theoretical. There was a big application business component to it. How can you make this useful from a business standpoint in information management? And I can see those layers now percolating all the way up throughout your career. So now it makes sense, right?
I'm glad it makes sense to somebody.
And I can see too, because in the early days, like you said, there was no, it was, there were punch cards, or even before that.
We learned wiring boards that pre-punch cards.
Yeah,
when we had a punch card, we put it through that manual sorter that we had to wire the boards to sort the punch cards.
Yeah, or collators, right?
Oh gosh, yeah, God. But that was great stuff.
Yeah, and you have to learn like ANSI code and beta read cards, and you have to learn the opcode of the big machines and things like that.
Oh, so you're older than you're letting on also, huh?
Yeah, you have to do machine language. And then, like you said, when assembler came along, then you got some symbolic representation.
It was wonderful. Are you kidding? That was terrific. These, zeros and ones, it's one thing, but boy, you can use actually letters.
Yeah, and then if you can start using English letters, and you didn't have to keep track of memory locations and registers and things like that. That's just like another evolution, right? So I can appreciate then you've seen it all.
I'm not sure I've seen it all, but you're bringing back some very interesting memories, Stephen.
or even when the first PCs came out, right? Initially, you really got to bootstrap them to get them to work, and you had to write your own drivers, and then Chicken CPC came out, or CPM came out, and then of course you had these operating systems, and then you get applications. But initially, it was pretty, low level stuff that you had to do, right?
But we didn't look at it like that. We looked at it like it was the AI of its time. This stuff is exciting. Look at the impact that we're having. It's all relative, I guess.
Yeah, it was. I can relate to this kind of magic of all of this, and then of course you get this, this path to go to MIT and the Sloan School. Now I can see now why the Sloan School, because he had this business combined with information management computing, and that would make sense on the Sloan School side because that's more on the business area. And then you end up ultimately working with IBM. Can you talk about the different sort of paths within IBM and
Sure. Back then it was really wonderful because you could really change your career but stay within the same company and not lose anything, quite frankly. So my first job at IBM was in the IBM Kingston plant.
Good.
And my very first job in the Kingston plant was a programmer, and it was programming the very first stages of robotics back then. Seriously, the machine that I programmed basically was telling a human on the other side of this huge frame two red lights, and they plug a wire here, plug the other end there. It checks the circuit, boom, goes to the next 2 point, tells the person, plug the next one here, and that, basically I wrote the code that told the manufacturer where to plug their cables, and that was really exciting back then. If it never walked around or anything like that, and didn't talk or communicate other than two little red lights.
Good.
And then so I was in Kingston, but my wife and I we're native New Yorkers. We met at NYU, like I said, and IBM was reshuffling employees. So I had the opportunity to go to New York and become a systems engineer, which is back then was the technical marketing arm of IBM. So I spent a lot of years as a systems engineer. Most of my clients were in the media office, and my clients were primarily ABC and CBS. And back then they were, big. CBS certainly bigger than they are now. And I even ran some of the elections back office systems for them, which was an exciting time. And so I moved my ranks through the systems engineering career, including consulting SC, which is the highest rank, and there aren't many of them or many people who made that, and systems engineering manager. I owned a bunch of products for IBM, including the 3081 mainframe for those people who remember well back then. I was the marketing arm of MVS, the operating system, which is still around. I remember when we traveled around the world trying to let people understand or try and help people understand what virtual really means. There was no virtual back then. And so I owned MVS. I owned the initial expert systems products for IBM, which is now evolved into Watson, which was a very exciting time. And I then entered what was called IBM Palisades, which was their customer executive education center, where IBM in Palisades, New York, where IBM invited their C-level customer executives from the largest organizations, and that was really my first foray into really, confronting large groups of C-level executives from the largest companies in the world, and I loved it. It was fun. And from there, I helped IBM start their management consulting group, and I owned the modules or plans for doing IT strategies and business process reengineering, which just start to culminate all of the skills that I was able to attain prior to that job. And we launched that, and it also helped really establish my network when I was at IBM. So I was always involved with different boards of directors. So I really had a large network of large cap CEOs, CIOs that I knew. And it was very helpful as I moved on in my career. And then as part of IBM's exec ed group, I met a lot of leaders from the best universities in the world, which got me into academia type of stuff. That's where I kind of met John Henderson and Ben Katram, amongst others, and got involved in the business IT alignment research and continued that until today. We're still doing that type of initiatives. So it was very exciting. So then when I went to Stevens, and after it took me 20 years to realize, with all due respect, not just Stevens, but every university are not the most entrepreneurial or flexible entities in the world, I really wanted to offer a flexible set of programs to large numbers of people around the globe to help them understand that it's important to go beyond just the technical skills to succeed. So
I want to pause here.
Okay, sure. I'm just going to ramp. Don't forget, I was a professor, so I profess.
Well, there's so much in your background. I'm glad we're doing this interview because I get to mind these different phases. There's so many of them, and I can relate too, right? So it's interesting. You're working through all these different areas of IBM, including from coding to doing this kind of managing this kind of early robot, in essence, to working in the IT strategy and planning, working with executives, being responsible for entire product lines, making sure that they get deployed, but also the customers are managed correctly, to working into the senior executive levels with your clients around the world, your IBM Customer Experience Conference Center being integrated into that. And
I forgot, and I even forgot, but I'm sorry I'm going to interrupt. I don't know how I forgot. In the midst of all of those things, I was a CIO at IBM in one of the business units. So that gave me a perspective of really managing an IT organization and the line responsibilities of what I always talked about. I was actually doing. So it gave me that perspective also.
Yeah, I mean, you ended up being a C-level executive. A CIO is a C-level executive, right? So a CXO within this huge structure, and then IBM was the giant. They're not now, but they were for decades. The number one company, and so I guess you had to wear that sort of outfit too, though, right? The corporate outfit, or
that was. Can I tell you? I liked having. My biggest decision was what tie to wear, because I knew what shirt I was wearing. It was white.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you have this marvelous career with IBM, and really doing every aspect within that company, and they enabled you, they empowered you to take on all these different roles, and you could see the executive, the IT strategy side with the business alignment. I mean, in fact, you'd be foundational in all of that big discussion that's been occurring over the decades.
We went through some very exciting times and transitions at IBM. I mean, expert systems, AI, the introduction of the PC. I owned the SWAT team to support all of the IS for IBM, just starting in the PC business way back when, to the more the newer areas of them getting into the services business. So yeah, it was really exciting opportunities, and the opportunity to be entrepreneurial within a big company was even more exciting to be able to do. So a lot of history, a lot of good history, and good changes back then.
Yeah, a lot of history, but also pioneering history, because a lot of the audience may not realize, but IBM was really the one that came up with the first commercial enterprise kind of PC computer. Apple was Apple, and it was kind of more hobbyist. It was IBM that came up with the PC where it made it okay for businesses to buy PCs.
I can tell you stories back then when negotiating between IBM, Intel, and IBM and Bill Gates.
Yeah, I can imagine
that. IBM made. You can look at it on Monday morning, mistakes made on Sunday's football games, but it could have been a very different world. I mean, IBM could have bought Intel and bought Microsoft, and it would have all been within. And I'm not suggesting it would have been a better world or not, but it would certainly have been a different world if those decisions were made.
Yeah, I mean, even from CPM to CPM 86 and then MS-DOS and then PC-DOS, I mean, if it wasn't for IBM saying, yes, we're going to use basically MS-DOS, MS-DOS would not have happened, right? And that became Windows. That entire history is really because of IBM. Oh.
Well, if I told you the price that IBM could have bought Microsoft MS-DOS back then, I had some expenses that were bigger than what we could have bought Microsoft for back then.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just incredible. It kind of reminds me of Palo Alto apart with Xerox, right? Really.
Oh, it's same. Well, there are lots of those stories of I wish I did this or woulda, coulda, shoulda. I think we all would have liked to have a crystal ball, but it doesn't exist.
And yet, though, you're still were foundational. The IBM PC was really the game changer.
Oh gosh, yeah, very successful. Even though it took a half an hour to boot up.
And really, IBM Watson and IBM's application of AI and IBM with quantum computing. IBM has always been a leader, and they're not as prominent now. But really, during your time, you were leading these big revolutions. You know what? I just had this conversation a Friday ago with Jean-Philippe, who actually started with Microsoft in 1984. So he started these subsidiaries. He was part of the MS-DOS, the Windows, the Office products, the server products. He actually his career kind of mirrors yours, but yours on the young side.
I mean, we might have run into each other when we were both didn't have gray hair or more hair.
But really, there's these parallels because you're pioneering on the IBM side, and those are amazing leadership areas that IBM has done for decades and decades and decades. So it's good to understand that life, and you were a CIO as well within IBM, which really is a very senior.
I I know we only have an hour, but you're just bringing up or reminding me of some old stories when we first introduced the PC to the IBM senior management team. They never had it. They never dreamt of having to use a keyboard or a mouse or something like that. And it was my people that had to go and teach them how to turn the thing on and use a keyboard and use a mouse. And it was again transformational times. It's fun, but we're doing transformational things all the time. It's just understanding what's the most effective way to do it, and that people who invent or have an idea about a technology have no idea what the long-term implications of that technology is going to be or how it's going to be applied by real people until it's out there and people try it. It's very exciting time, but people don't have a crystal ball like we all know, and to watch something evolve from an idea to a reality to a usable thing and watch it evolve. I mean, we all have heard the stories of, Edison and the light bulb. Electricity. I mean, he never thought of night football games. Or if you think of the Wright brothers going on a DC-10, I mean, they'd look at that thing and they wouldn't want to walk into it. That thing can't take off the ground. I mean, it's exciting to be able to see an idea evolve, and especially evolve successfully.
Yeah, and in fact, mainframes still exist, but really PCs or that concept has supplanted everything. In data centers are really PCs, in racks, right? So it's just amazing. And you were in the midst of all of this. So let's go into this career now. Okay, so you're dealing with academics while you're at IBM, and so you get exposed to all of this academic kind of ecosystem, and then you decide to become an academic. So after a 22-year career with IBM, you then get into being an academic. And is that with the Stevens Institute initially, or
Yes,
what?
I went. Yeah, the Stevens at the time was just the School of Technology, had no management at all. And I was talking to the president at the time, and the idea of focusing in on technology management, which is something I learned way back in my undergraduate days,
Right.
but was something that they were looking at not from an IT perspective and engineering perspective. And we started a whole school of technology management to really help prepare technical managers, depending on what the technology is, of course, but recognizing the importance of balancing the skills that are necessary to succeed in today's world and to be able to communicate effectively to your non-IT business partners, because you can have the best technology in the world if it's not applied appropriately by the business and the consumer, it just doesn't matter. So you got to get out of that technical focus and move out and let the world know the wonders of what you're doing and the impact it can have.
Yeah, I mean, the Stevens Institute is actually quite famous in their information systems programs, right?
Well, we grew it to one of the largest. It was exciting. I mean, we're located what's called Hoboken, which is literally right across the Hudson River from the finance area of New York, which is also at the time starting to move to New Jersey. And every one of these kids, got, and they still are getting great jobs because they're getting a strong set of technical skills, but also understanding the business, the finance kind of things. So they fit in well, and they're gobbled up quickly by the finance companies, as well as on the Jersey side, the pharmaceutical companies who are looking for similar skills. So those big industries, big companies, really help Stevens grow and become the success that it's becoming. I'm not sure where it stands, but I'm sure it's in the top 5 or 10 schools for kids graduating and getting high salary jobs with even just a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, and when I look at your career and what you've done, and even with MIU, combining the business side with the computing science side, integrating that into more of an information management program, and then you're basically doing that at IBM when it didn't even exist. I mean, it's just incredible. And you take all that experience, and then you're creating this thing at Stevens, and it becomes world famous. You know what? That's amazing. That's an amazing history.
Well, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because you need to be flexible in trying to provide these types of opportunities, especially to different cultures and different ecosystems around the globe. And it's an exciting time for me, which also keeps me working because of the impact that we're seeing around the globe.
Okay, so I can see this journey, IBM, then the Stevens. You lead Stevens to be in the world's prominent technology information systems program. You have graduates everywhere. You're definitely marrying the computing side with the business side, the IT strategic alignment. It used to be that IT used to be siloed, and then now it's just accepted. It's everywhere. It's integrated to every aspect. And it used to be an argument for decades, IT, are they a cost center? Do we kind of leave them in the corner? No, you can't not make a decision in a company at the board. It doesn't matter what level. The computing side and what it means has to be part of that discussion. But you would be the pioneer in making sure that.
Gosh, Stephen, we were talking about the IT having an impact on revenues, 20, 30 years ago. Initially, as you well know, IT the computing department was in the basement of a business. Nobody wanted to see them. Many business executives treated their IT people like the trolls in the basement. I mean, they didn't speak the same language. They smelled like they told all of the business people, if you see one of those people, walk the other way. You don't want to talk to them. And now, like you said, and back then it was only back office stuff, right? It was payroll, it was accounting, accounts payable, that kind of stuff. Now, if you're not at the forefront in leveraging technology to generate revenues to differentiate your organization, you're out of business.
Yeah, definitely out of business.
But as I said at the beginning of our conversation, we meaning both IT and non-IT organizations, are still making the same mistakes as we made in the past and not working still as closely as we can, IT and non-IT organizations, to make sure we understand what the impact of these technologies are and to make sure that they get implemented and deployed effectively and efficiently. And it's the success rate of technology initiatives are still the same horrible success rates as they were 30, 40 years ago. And it's not because IT people are poor project managers. It's that, I call it alignment. Some people don't like using that word. It's IT and non-IT people working together to understand the opportunities and how to leverage it and change what they're doing to take advantage of it. And in today's world, it's literally changing a company and their business and the services and products that they're providing.
So you have this marvelous career at IBM. You have 20 years with the Stevens Institute, really co-creating and pioneering, as the premier school programs in the world. You have graduates everywhere, leading organizations. And then you decide, you know what? I want to even do this as an institute, right? So can you describe that shift from Stevens to what you're doing now?
It was, the transition from IBM as an executive with a large staff and then going into academia without having a large staff, although I had students and some administrators working for me, but I didn't have the army of people, to delegate to. And then going from even there to my own business, which was probably equally transformational in the change of the responsibility and to get something done at an IBM or at a Stevens, even though I had a lot of clout, I couldn't make decisions on my own without going through the wonderful processes that they have in place. Now, the only one I have to answer to is my wife of a lot of years, and she's usually easier to deal with than an IBM or a Stevens Institute in making decisions and letting me do. She's happy to just keep me away from her and off the streets. So it's owning your own company is a different animal, and it's more exciting. It's more rewarding. But I'm doing it largely because I wake up. I don't know if you saw some of my emails. I'm up in the morning, no alarm clock at 3:30 a.m. Eastern time every day, even weekends. And I'm people who see this and know me get emails from me, with all sorts of hours at night or in the morning. I love it. It's exciting. Now, I'd be a liar if I didn't say sometimes it gets frustrating and I say to myself, what the heck am I doing this for? I mean, I can, go down to Florida with my friends and live on a nice golf community someplace, even though I don't play golf very well. But I just enjoy the action and the changes that are taking place, the impact that these emerging technologies, AI, blockchain, are having, the concerns about security considerations, where all this stuff is going. Anybody who says they know is not telling the truth. I mean, the future is we know it's exciting, but we don't know exactly where it's going, and we know it's going to have a major impact on, and it is having a major impact on everything.
So tell me, so you got the Global Institute for IT Management, right?
Yes.
And what are the services that you offer and the certifications that you offer and the programs? How do people get on board?
Sure. We basically have 35 4-course certificate programs. Nobody, no university, no training company comes close to the breadth of digital management education programs. Now, we can do technical programs, and we've done some for special cases, but our strength is, again, focusing in on digital management. And the hot areas, are not a mystery. They're, a CIO certification. Where can you make sure a CIO or somebody who's working close to a CIO or consulting to a CIO can really understand all of the considerations it takes to be a successful chief information officer? Programs for non-IT executives. Most senior level executives, we've had over 7 or 8 now, Global 1000 CEO programs, and they don't care about master's degrees or certifications, but we go for a 2-3 day nice venue, and invariably they all say the same thing. They still can't rely, this is what they're saying, they can't rely on their own IT organization to convey what the implications are of the different technologies. They don't want to go to universities, even the best of them, and we use a lot of the faculty from the best of them, but they don't want to go to universities because they believe universities are still too academic, and they don't want to go to a consulting company or a vendor because they're constantly hitting on them and selling their products and services. So we provide them with a nice, safe space with a balance of some leading academics and very experienced gray-haired practitioners who can convey what these things are in terms that they could appreciate. So while our sweet spot tends to be IT professionals with 10 or more years of experience, they've got the strong technical skills, perhaps good project management skills or lower level management skills, but they don't have the higher level skills that they need to really move up into the higher ranks of an IT organization. And non-IT executives. So candidly, right now, I would say the faster growing part of our business are programs for non-IT executives, although it's not as large as the IT people. And we don't market or recruit individuals. We work with what we, like a university might. We work with what we call affiliates. So affiliates could be a university, a management association, consulting company, and we co-brand programs and provide a revenue sharing model, which works out quite well. And since we do a lot of work with universities, and because of the breadth of the programs that we have, universities leverage the courses and programs that we have that they don't have to expand their existing master's degrees, as well as their executive education and continuing education programs. And because of that, our courses have all gone through accreditation, university accreditation requirements, including AACSB as part of the university. So our programs are accredited as well as certified by several certifying organizations. And most of our candidates still are B2B, so they're business people who aren't interested in a master's degree. But they, in a large number, are interested in certificates and certifications. Then the senior execs who just want the insights. So the demand is significant because of the growth, and we have about 14 or 15 industry-oriented programs. So digital finance, digital pharma, digital healthcare, digital retail, etc., which just focus on the impact that digitalization is having on that specific industry, from a back office to a front office to research to the future, and the impact that technology is having and will have on the specific industry. So it's a wide breadth of programs, and we pride ourselves on our breadth of programs, our faculty. We've got over 300 faculty. It's a who's who of leading academics and practitioners. And the demand is there. So it's an exciting time.
So let's say a company wants to use the executive suite of a company wants to use your services. Is it a hybrid model? Do they have to come to do it virtually online? What's it like?
So all 35 of our 4-course programs are available live face to face, or live online like you and I are now. The most popular programs are also available on our learning management system and blended.
None.
And candidly, those programs that are asynchronous or blended are largely being used by areas that can't afford the higher prices for a live program. So we offer a geo pricing model to try and make it affordable for places like Africa, parts of India, other parts of Asia, Latin America, to make it affordable. But the numbers are large, and it works out quite nicely. But we try to get our affiliates to use a blended model, not to just use the asynchronous model. And what we do in cases to keep it affordable is we prepare local faculty to serve as facilitators and mentors for the blended model and delivery that we provide. So candidates get the benefit of hearing the GIIM faculty on the pre-recorded lectures, but then they get the local faculty who are more cognizant of the local cultural and economic considerations, and sometimes language considerations for the local program, let alone the flexible pricing. So we try to, the one rule I have is there are no rules. So I try to, listen to my affiliate, and if there's an interest, we'll make it work.
I do keynotes. I mean, in fact, I do probably over 3,000 engagements a year. A lot of them virtual, a lot of them in person as well. And the engagements I call them AMAs, Ask Me Anything, or keynotes. I just did a series. On the keynotes, though, and the AMAs, I always get this question, and that is, how do I implement AI? Can you point me to resources on AI? So you must have curriculum on AI, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah, our website is very comprehensive. So by all means, share it to your constituency. It's Global IIM, one word, globaliim.com. And it's very comprehensive, not too difficult to navigate, but all of our programs and course descriptions are there. Our pricing is there. Examples of affiliates are there. It's a living, breathing set of documents. So it's very comprehensive, and I urge people to take a look at it and get some ideas about programs that they might find of value and interest to their constituency.
Now, before we leave, we only have a few minutes left. You're a well-published author. I think it's 19 books, published research, continuing consulting, coaching, and mentoring, a lot of teaching, speaking engagements. I mean, you do it all. Can you highlight your book journey? Because you got a lot of IP baked into your books, right?
Yep. If you can't tell, I'm a type A person. I can't sit still, which is why my wife said she'd divorce me if I stopped working. I really enjoy the action. It's especially when things are challenging, especially when things are exciting, and you can see the rewards of your efforts. I mean, I didn't say this, but back when I was a CIO a lot of years ago, I was just think of this. I was a CIO at IBM. At the same time, I was completing my PhD, and I coached our son's Little League team. And we went to the World Series and came in third place.
Yep.
I look back and today with my wife and our son, we also have a wonderful daughter. I look back and say, how the heck was I able to do all three of those things? I mean, each one of those things took an enormous amount of time. And candidly, the work is one thing. Going for the PhD, which is a third thing that I didn't mention when your first question, was our kids seeing how serious I was about studying and doing work at home. We did work together, the three of us, the two kids and me. And I think they both got wonderful habits and perspectives about work and life. And to this day, both of them are extremely successful in their own endeavors. And I think their kids see the same thing in them, because they portray, evolve the same level of importance on, hard work is important if you're going to succeed.
So we talked about your books, though. Do you have new ones coming out? What's your latest?
Oh, I think I've stopped on that one, Stephen. It takes too much time. It really does. My bandwidth is getting tougher and tougher. I mean, I get requests all the time, candidly, to do speaking engagements, which I really love. That's the best thing in life, as far as I'm concerned, getting in front of a group of people. But I just don't. I just don't have the time to do all of these things and run my own business and enjoy my life, including my grandkids. So writing a book, if somebody who I really had confidence in came to me and I knew and wanted to write a book, a co-author letting me help them, I probably could be convinced, but it would take a lot of convincing. It's a lot of work and not a lot of reward, at least financial reward in most cases. My books were never number one on Times bestseller list, although our textbooks were amongst the most popular MIS textbooks back in the day. So the answer to your question is, I don't think so. And I do the same thing with research projects and writing papers for academic journals and things like that. I'll get involved if I think the message is important and the team that's engaged are really good. But got to slow down someplace.
But you still do active teaching and speaking engagements, right?
Oh, that's the most fun. My biggest mistake was when I was at Stevens was becoming a dean. I should have just been a professor. That's where the fun is, in working with the young people. The administrative leadership management stuff was terrible.
So a quick question. In fact, I just finished keynoting a private CEO event in New York. I mean, literally just like a day and a half ago. And one of the participants was looking for a speaker for another CEO event in South America, but you have to be Spanish speaking. Do you speak Spanish?
But my two kids and my wife speak Spanish fluidly. In fact, both our kids studied in Spain. Not me. I was so happy when I was able to go for a BS degree, and it didn't have a language requirement other than COBOL, Fortran, and Assembler. I have a mind block with foreign languages. It's terrible, especially since I've traveled all around the globe.
Yeah, it's interesting. Back in the old days here in Canada, you're supposed to be to do another language when you go into post-secondary education. But anyway, it's another story. I have one. We're at the end of our interview. Do you have one sort of final recommendation to the audience or questions you want to leave the audience?
Other than, I think I mentioned it earlier, other than I love leaving this kind of message with people, whether you're an IT person or non-IT person, this is the most exciting time to get engaged in this stuff. And it's the only choice you have, because you don't have a choice anyway. So you might as well enjoy it. So if you don't enjoy what you're doing, if you're not challenged what you're doing, if you don't feel like you're making a contribution to whomever your constituency might be, this is you're doing something wrong. It's just too great a period of time with all the craziness. We don't want to go there, but all the craziness going on in the world today with the politics and the wars and the economy and the viruses and whatever, which is scary. And you got to be concerned about it. But from a business and IT and point of view, this is wonderful, man. This is just real fun. Enjoy it.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I mean, you and I come from the day when you had these things called vacuum tubes that were like this big.
But if I knew ahead of time, I have some here someplace. Yeah.
And then you had transistors, and then you were able to pack a few of them into an integrated circuit. And now we're talking OpenAI's O1 model got released, and they claim it's a reasoner, and it reasons like a PhD student, and
Well, that's no challenge.
It's amazing what we're living in right now, right? So, and Jerry, you were responsible for pioneering to get us
part of it. I've been working. One person can't do anything close to the impact that these things are having. But I really believe and I'm happy to believe that I did make a major contribution and still continue to make a contribution because I think it's important around the globe. The problems that exist are very similar all over. It's just coming to grips with what's the best way to address it and make everybody succeed and be happy.
Absolutely, Jerry. It's such a delight to go over your story arc, and it continues even into the future. You're just a remarkable contributor and pioneer in so many different ways. And I appreciate you spending the time with me and sharing your insights with my audience.
It was my pleasure. I just want to have first dibs and understand who's going to play me in your movie. Thank you, Stephen.
And thank you. Take care.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.